Welcome back, everybody. We're diving deep today into the Andes to explore the fall of the Inca Empire
Yeah,
at the hands of Francisco Pizarro. You ready to kind of unpack this clash of cultures and ambitions?
absolutely. I think this is one of those stories that really shows how, a single event can just completely reshape
Oh, yeah,
history.
for sure.
So yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
G2.
Where do we start?
Well, let's start with a little bit of context, I think. When
Okay.
we talk about the Inca Empire, we often talk about, how vast their territory was and their roads.
Yeah, their infrastructure.
Yeah. What was it that made them so sophisticated?
Well, imagine this, right? A civilization in the Americas, long before European contact, that had a road network stretching over 40,000 kilometers. That's basically circling the entire globe.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we're not just talking about a simple path here. We're talking suspension bridges, tunnels carved through mountains, way stations for travelers. I mean, the Inca were serious engineers.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's amazing.
mind-boggling.
It really is.
And so all this was being governed from Cusco.
Exactly. Cusco was like the beating heart of the Inca Empire. And their ruler, the Inca, he wasn't just some king. He was considered the son of the sun, a divine figure deeply connected to the cosmos.
It's interesting how that religious element really played a big part in their society.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Their whole worldview was shaped by it. Their governance, their relationship with nature, everything.
So then into this sophisticated and powerful empire walks Francisco Pizarro.
Yeah, what a contrast, right?
Um, and we were talking earlier about how one event can change everything.
Yeah.
How did Pizarro, with his background, even end up colliding with this massive empire?
It's a classic story, ambition and the allure of gold. Pizarro was actually an illiterate farmer from Trujillo, Spain.
So like a real underdog story?
Total.
I mean, what set him on this path to South America? Was there like a single aha moment, or was it more of a gradual thing?
Well, it seems like Pizarro was always drawn to those tales of adventure and riches from the New World. I think he wanted to escape his humble beginnings and really make a name for himself. So he embarks on not one, but 3 expeditions to South America.
3. Wow. That must have been brutal.
Oh, each journey was full of hardship, disease, starvation, conflict with indigenous populations. It was a constant battle against the odds.
You got to be pretty determined to face all that and keep going.
Right. But Pizarro and his men, they were persistent or maybe just stubborn, but they eventually made it to the Inca Empire.
And that's where we get that famous line in the sand moment.
Right.
The 13 of the fame on the Isla del Gallo.
Exactly. Resources were dwindling, doubts were growing among the men, and Pizarro takes this incredible gamble. He draws a line in the sand, literally, and tells his men to choose. Go back to Panama in poverty or continue south in pursuit of riches and glory.
That's intense.
Talk about a leadership moment, right? Only 13 men chose to stay with him. That's some serious commitment.
It's pretty amazing to think that Pizarro inspired that level of loyalty.
And some historians believe that Pizarro used the Inca belief that the Spaniards were returning gods to his advantage. He may have even incorporated their own religious ceremonies into his tactics.
Wow, that's pretty cunning.
Definitely a shrewd strategist.
Especially considering he was going up against an empire so much bigger than his own force.
Absolutely.
So what was the state of the Inca Empire when Pizarro finally got there?
Well, the timing here is key. When Pizarro arrived, the Inca Empire was in the middle of a civil war. 2 brothers, Atahualpa and Huascar, were fighting for control. And that internal conflict, well, it definitely played a role in Pizarro's eventual success.
So was he deliberately exploiting the situation, or was it just dumb luck?
Pizarro was no fool. He was a shrewd observer, and he quickly realized that he could use this conflict to his advantage. So it wasn't just luck. He saw an opportunity, and he seized it.
And that leads us to that pivotal encounter in Cajamarca's main plaza. Atahualpa, with a force of 30,000, facing Pizarro and a mere 168 men.
Wild, right?
Yeah, I mean, it seems unbelievable that Pizarro would even consider challenging the Inca emperor, let alone capturing him.
It's audacious for sure, but Pizarro had a few tricks up his sleeve. He used surprise, horses, steel weapons, gunpowder, things the Inca had never seen before.
I can't imagine what must have been going through their minds.
Right.
Seeing these strange creatures, these weapons they'd never encountered.
It must have been terrifying, confusing, and completely unexpected.
So even though they had the numbers on their side, they were just totally unprepared.
Exactly. The element of surprise and the psychological impact of these new technologies, it all shifted the balance in Pizarro's favor.
So it was a complete mismatch of civilizations.
In many ways, yeah, it was. And that clash of cultures, technologies, and military tactics,
Yeah.
it led to one of the most dramatic conquests in history.
So Pizarro captures Atahualpa, and then we get to this insane story of the ransom.
Oh, yeah.
An entire room filled with gold.
It's hard to even imagine, isn't it?
Yeah.
All that gold and silver just pouring into Cajamarca.
It must have been unbelievable.
It really shows the scale of the Inca wealth, doesn't it?
For sure.
And maybe Pizarro's greed, too?
Right. But, I mean, did they really think the Inca could pull it off?
I'm sure they were skeptical at first.
Yeah.
But as that gold started coming in, their jaws must have dropped.
Oh, yeah. They'd never seen anything like it.
And it speaks volumes about the Incas' resources and their craftsmanship.
So then why, if they got all this gold?
Why execute Atahualpa?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
baffled historians for centuries.
I mean, what was the reason?
Well, the Spanish put Atahualpa on trial.
Yeah.
And they charged him with all sorts of things.
Like what?
Idolatry, regicide, heresy,
Okay.
polygamy, treason. The list goes on.
It's amazing how different their cultures were.
Oh, yeah. Totally different worlds.
I mean, was Pizarro really worried about these charges, or was it just an excuse?
It's hard to know for sure.
Yeah.
Some historians believe he saw Atahualpa as a threat.
Even though he was a prisoner.
Even as a prisoner, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, what if Atahualpa inspired a rebellion?
okay.
Or his presence just made it harder for the Spanish to control the empire?
So it was more about power than justice.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh.
But whatever the reason, Atahualpa's execution, it was a turning point. It solidified Pizarro's control, but it also sparked a lot of resistance among the Inca.
Right. And then Manco Inca steps in.
Ah, yes, Manco Inca. He was a fascinating figure. Yeah, I mean, how did he challenge the Spanish when they had all the military advantages?
Well, he knew that even with their guns and horses,
Yeah.
the Spanish were vulnerable
Okay.
in unfamiliar territory.
I
So he retreated to the mountains to Vilcabamba.
That's smart, using the landscape to his advantage.
Exactly. He turned the Spanish strengths into weaknesses.
Wow.
And he even managed to form alliances with other indigenous groups.
So he really turned the tables on Pizarro.
He did. He showed that the Inca wouldn't go down without a fight.
It sounds like Pizarro underestimated them.
Maybe he didn't understand their resilience, their determination to protect their land and their culture.
It wasn't all smooth sailing for the Spanish, though, was it?
No, not at all.
I mean, what about that feud between Pizarro and Almagro?
Ah, yes. Pizarro and Almagro. It's a classic story of ambition and betrayal.
Yeah, what happened there?
Well, they started as partners,
Okay.
united by their thirst for gold and glory. But as they conquered more territory, their relationship started to sour.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Something like that.
So what happened?
Well, they argued over who got what,
Right.
who had more power.
Classic.
And eventually it erupted into a full-blown conflict.
Wow.
The Battle of Las Salinas.
And Almagro.
He was defeated and executed.
It's almost like the Inca Civil War played out again, but with the conquistadors.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Like this cycle of power struggles and betrayals.
It makes you wonder if anyone truly wins in these situations.
Especially since Pizarro didn't enjoy his victory for very long.
Nope. Almagro's supporters wanted revenge.
Oh,
And they assassinated Pizarro in his own palace.
wow. So the conqueror of empires
Yeah.
meets his end.
Not on the battlefield,
Right.
but in his own home.
That's crazy. It's ironic, isn't it?
It is. And Pizarro's death in 1541, it really threw Peru into chaos.
Yeah, it did.
All these different factions fighting for control.
It makes you think.
Yeah?
Was it even a victory for the Spanish?
I mean, they were constantly battling each other. Right, and what about the Inca?
Yeah. What happened to them in all this turmoil?
Well, Pizarro might have been gone.
Yeah.
But the Inca continued to suffer under Spanish rule.
In what way?
Forced labor, religious conversion, their culture was suppressed.
It's hard to imagine what they went through.
It's a tragic chapter in their history.
So the Spanish conquest?
It changed the Andes forever.
I'm sure.
Their way of life was gone.
And they fought back for years.
Decades even.
Uh,
But the final blow came in 1572.
what happened?
Tupac Amaru I, the last Inca emperor.
Yeah.
He was executed.
That truly marked the end of an era.
It did, but
Yeah.
the Inca spirit,
Yeah.
their resilience, their
Mhm.
culture,
Lived on.
it did. And their descendants today, they still honor their ancestors.
That's powerful.
It is a testament to the enduring legacy of the Inca people.
You know, it's amazing how even after all these centuries, the Inca and their story,
Yeah.
it still captures our imagination.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the clash of cultures, the ambition, the tragedy, it's like something out of a movie.
Yeah, it really raises some big questions, too,
For sure.
about power
Yeah.
and conquest and the impact of colonialism.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to judge Pizarro and the conquistadors,
Right.
but
Yeah.
we've got to remember the historical context, you know?
You've mentioned that a few times.
Yeah.
This historical context.
Yeah.
What does that really mean, and why is it so important?
Well, think of it like reading a book.
Okay.
You can't just jump into the middle.
Right.
You got to start at the beginning
Okay.
to understand the characters and the plot.
So we need to understand the world that Pizarro is living in.
Exactly. You know, their beliefs, their values.
Okay.
Back then, European powers were all about exploration, conquest, riches.
Yeah.
They believed their culture was superior,
Okay.
that their religion was the only true one.
It's hard to believe people thought like that.
I know, it's so different from how we see the world today.
That's why studying history is so fascinating.
Totally. It's like a window into a completely different reality.
But even considering all that,
Yeah.
Pizarro's actions were still brutal.
That's true.
He took over.
Mm-hmm.
He exploited their divisions.
Yeah.
He used his weapons.
It wasn't a fair fight.
No, it wasn't.
And it's hard to justify that.
Yeah, I mean, can we acknowledge the context but still condemn what happened?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah,
Trying to balance those two perspectives.
and the impact is still felt today.
Absolutely. The legacy of colonialism in South America.
Yeah.
It's a long and complex story.
So where do we go from here?
That's the question.
How do we make sense of all this?
History isn't just about the past. It's about understanding who we are today, how we got here.
Right.
The good and the bad.
We can't change what happened.
No.
But
we can learn from it.
yeah, I think this deep dive has really opened my eyes to a whole new perspective.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's been a journey.
It has, from the Inca Empire to Pizarro to the Conquest.
And hopefully it's inspired our listeners to learn more.
Yeah, there's so much more to discover.
So keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep learning.
That's what it's all about.
Until next time.